You know, I have sort of an ethnic background, product of a couple of different cultures. My mother's from Chile, my dad from Pakistan, so I did a lot of traveling as a kid, and at a pretty early age was exposed to a lot of different music. You know, my parents were listening to Charlie Parker and Dave Brubeck, and a lot of classical music, a lot of flamenco, a lot of South American folk music, Pakistani movie music, and I traveled a lot as a kid, so had a fair amount of, I think, pretty innocent exposure to a lot of cultures. So I think that comes out in my playing in a way that's probably less self-conscious. It's not like I've ever actually formally tried to be an improviser of ethnic music. It's just, that's sort of what I grew up around. So I didn't start out going to the university or going through, you know, books on jazz guitar theory or modal theory. I started out going to the south side of Chicago and playing in jam sessions. So there was a fair amount of just organic background that I had, whether it was in Chicago or around the world, and I think that's allowed me sort of to have a less self-conscious approach to virtuosity, I guess. You look at the history of great music, every great music, and I say by great music, I mean music that our society, people in general, universally say, this is something that means something to me, it's important to me, this music, it's important to my everyday life. If you go, any music that fills that definition has tradition behind it. All the great innovations in music were usually the product of musicians who had tradition in their background. So I think if you know history, know tradition, you can really inform your music in a very effortless way that if you don't know that tradition, it becomes impossible. I love the sound of a sitar, and so we tried to come up with some instruments that had sort of a 12-fret chromatic neck, but the sitar timbre. The technology also allows me to bring in instruments into a dance, live, spontaneous context that we couldn't have done even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, particularly bringing the tabla in and amplifying it to a funk band volume, and bringing the loops in and being able to incorporate loops in a live, real-time context rather than just programming the whole thing so it becomes a static show that has no spontaneity. Now, we can play tunes that have loops and that have all kinds of layers of sampled sounds as well as live sounds, and do all that pretty much in real time, so we can just walk into a room and play to a crowd. Amplification is a lot better. Pickup technology is a lot better. A classical guitar can sound actually halfway decent amplified now. The sitar guitars sound quite good amplified. I think there's a respect for the tradition in technology now that there didn't used to be. You know, people are saying, well, let's use tubes because there's a certain sound there, but then they're also not afraid to marry that traditional technology to more computerized technology, to more digital technology. And so I have a bunch of pedals that I'm learning how to work better and better. I mean, and it's pretty effortless, I think, now, if you just have an idea, a musical idea you want to express.
Fareed Haque. Fareed Haque of Fareed Haque Group. Before he joined us, we were just a group.
I'm Fareed Haque, and I approve this message.